How do you hook mobile users to maximize retention? Hello and welcome to Retention Masterclass. My name is John Koetsier.
And my name is Peggy Salz, and we're your co-host, as always, on the show.
It's a rare privilege today. Obviously, spending time with Peggy is great, but we also have a guest who is amazing. He's a gamer, he makes games, and he markets games. So it's kind of the full meal deal. It's the complete package.
I could also add, been there, done that, maybe, John. His name is Fouad Saeidi. He's the founder of the App Growth Network. He's worked with, the who's who of the industry, Farmville, Carrie Underwood, Sage Accounting, long, illustrious list of clients. He's going to tell us about some of them as well.
And maybe one of the most interesting parts for me on his website, under services, App Growth Network actually lists retention as one of their services. Now, I don't know about you, Peggy. You've been in the mobile industry a long time. I haven't seen retention as a service from an agency before. So that's pretty cool.
That's absolutely cool. And that's actually another reason to have him here, because it is Retention Masterclass. So Fouad, welcome to Retention Masterclass. Great to have you here.
Thank you, Peggy. Thank you, John, for having me here. It's a pleasure to be here.
So you talk about retention on the website. We got that. I have to go check that out actually now, because that's very rare. Even to mention retention is pretty rare. And you are convinced, in your view, and I quote, retention is the only way to grow. Now, that is something that's pretty bullish, pretty brave. What makes you so convinced?
Yeah, I think honestly, in today's day and age, when apps are growing and they get a lot of downloads, a lot of people they think that the goal should be just about getting more new users, which costs a lot of money and time and energy and resources. But we need to get people sticky to our products, and the only way to grow, to my opinion, is to keep them engaged and informed about our products. And retention is the only way to grow an app these days. You can't constantly pour money to user acquisition. The UA costs are going higher all the time. So that's why a lot of app entrepreneurs and developers focus a lot on retention first before they want to pour more money into their apps.
That is really interesting, actually. And maybe we'll just stay on that point for half a second, because you said many do focus on that, but many don't. In fact, Peggy and I are working with a client right now who is talking about some of the challenges and the problems with getting mobile developers to focus on retention. Talk about that a little bit more, maybe a little more depth as well, just on that mindset shift. And have you seen it happening more and more? Is that kind of a trend right now?
Absolutely. Especially right now with COVID stuff, we see economy tanking and people's purchasing power, it's just diminishing. People they cannot afford always to pay on user acquisition. We talked about it. Some people will yes, I can get apps ranked organically in the App Store, right? And that's I'll grow it by doing that. But we've even seen people that are ranking really well in the App Store, without sticky products, they can monetize it well, right?
Yes.
So they shift first on retention. I need to fix retention. They want the habit formation, the stickiness factors. And then, psychologically, people, once they're hooked, they get to purchase events and eventually commit to a purchase, right? So more and more developers are realizing that I got to fix it up first. We constantly deal with people with they have got to a level that they realize that without it, they gotta either it's a deal breaker for them to continue the business, right?
That is really, really
Retention is a deal breaker. That's something, John.
It really is, Peggy. I mean,
wow.
Let's dive into that in terms of tools and process. So you've got access to all the tools, all the analytics, everything, whatever you need, and you do a lot of hands-on work for your clients. Talk about what that looks like in practice. What do you do? How's it happen?
Yeah, so basically, John, we get access to clients like Firebase or their Play Console, App Store Connect, Braze, CleverTab, whatever tool they're using for engagement, right? And they fix it, So okay, so the first thing is, okay, to fix it, you got to diagnose it, right? Quantitative and qualitative benchmarking. knowing, are they like even like within the industry average, or are they like way off, or you gotta, what, where is the leak? Imagine like a mechanic, they gotta fix a leak in your car, right? So we start with an event taxonomy audit. So we have templates for that, and based on specific, like an acquisition event or like a retention event or like purchase event, put them to different buckets, and we audit the taxonomy to make sure in all those like tools, like say Firebase or CleverTap or like Braze, or, and these things are consistent, so developer can measure things right consistently. And then we connect the dots, basically the architect the funnels, look at the funnels, are these numbers making sense? Retention day one, 30%, is that a good thing or not a good thing? A lot of people don't know because they've only dealt with their app and their own genre, right? With us working with diverse range of projects, basically we've worked with every single genre so far. We know like if these numbers are making sense to industry leaders, and obviously analytics and intelligence tools on top of that are partnerships that help a lot. And like, and sometimes it's qualitative, the UX audit, looking at the onboarding flow, bulletproofing proofing the onboarding, psychological pricing. So like basically connecting the dots that way and mapping out how to fix it next with the product teams together, right?
It's interesting that you also, it just doesn't begin and end with the leaky bucket as well. We always hear about, oh, fix it, just fix that leaky bucket. And it sounds like, yeah, sure, piece of cake. No,
Yeah.
it's very intense. And it's actually bringing everyone on the same page to begin with, because I wasn't aware of this. I'm not a marketer per se, but, the taxonomy, that isn't even consistent throughout. Do you find that people are prepared to really get to grips with retention, or do they just think it's just this great concept that's going to save them some UA budget?
Depends on the sophistication of these developers, but yeah, I mean, some people are like, they have their sophisticated product managers. Like we've had clients that connect everything to one dashboard in a segment. They want to see where the traffic comes from, measure things. And there are people that they have like, no clue what's going on. Then
Mm.
these are serial entrepreneurs. They have like, for different projects, but we look at the taxonomy. We're like, well, why are you measuring things this way? Like your attribution platform is different from your analytics platform, and you can't even measure your own thing, especially when it comes to games. Think about like all those in-game events and tokens and rewards and psychological things that goes to it. Sometimes the taxonomy could include 50 events just to measure, right? From an analytic perspective, each of them could make a difference at some point, right? So it could get very sophisticated at some point, but I think that is a very good starting point with all the developers to get that
Mhm.
consistent like taxonomy document.
I think it's just great that people are coming to you and saying, here, fix it. We acknowledge this. We want to move to retention. As John said, have retention on the website. We are into something. You can feel it coming together. But of course, the best is an example of success. And you've worked with some clients, I understand, increasing retention by 40%, 40. That's incredible. And that's also something that isn't just a few percentage points. This is something significant. Maybe you can walk us through that, because as I understand it, it starts with something as simple as getting onboarding right.
Sometimes, yeah, I mean, an
Uh,
example like this 40% example could be like a client of ours, like Gobsmax. Very good idea, brilliant, like great design of the app. Like they're actually like, I'm pretty sure it's going to be successful. Like, think about Angry Birds, but like add certain planets on it, like, space, and like, it's going to have a great success. So we realized that like, retention, the retention day 7 and 30, amazing. So like 14 and 30, amazing. So this product, as long as the user makes it to that level, they're gonna like commit to in-app purchases. The problem was they can't make it to that level. The retention day one was the biggest problem. So how do we fix problems like that? Like, cutting down the clicks, then taken until the first action in game, teaching users the new game mechanics at the right time, uninterrupted gameplay, especially at the beginning, introducing achievements, like in all the psychological stuff with achievements, a feedback loop, like daily rewards. Like this is like massive. Like the ratio of rewards. Does it worth it for me to come back tomorrow? And gamifying everything. Like, they have like mini games. So through those mini games, how do we get involved? Like so that when people are bored, they do something else till their lives kind of like come back, right? They get like the full life. Otherwise, they're gonna go play another game and forget about this, right?
mm,
So a game within a game, right?
cool.
So yeah, I mean, these things are like, like sometimes it takes like 4 weeks, and after that you could see like, double digit like retention, like growth numbers. But you need to have a good development team that are open minded. They're not I mean, a lot of people are obsessed with products, the product manager, producers, right? So that obsession sometimes make them like blindsided, not to want to like make some changes. Like, I know best, but like, look, data tells us something different, right?
Fuad, I just want to pause on this a second and just, I mean, a 40% increase in retention. These numbers are, this is unheard of.
Yeah.
If you look at the acquisition side and you make a 1% improvement, you might, have a party, celebrate, go for dinner that
Yeah.
night or something like that, right? Because it's so hard on acquisition and maybe getting harder with iOS 14, by the way.
Oh, don't even start with iOS 14.
Exactly, exactly. But it's so hard to move the needle in advertising and in
Yeah.
marketing. But in retention, the 40%, I mean, that blows me away.
I think with that kind of those kind of projects, you have open-minded people that they're like we acknowledge, like I'm right now working with like another project. We acknowledge these things, or we are willing to make those massive changes in the project or the product, or like work with data and analytics, right? It's doable. Like, it's basically looking at every single thing in not only games, like apps as well. Like, we don't only work with games, right? Like apps. And it starts with habit formation. It starts with stickiness, which I think we can have a good talk about these topics with some of the industry leaders that they've like pioneered and excelled at, right?
Well, to the point, it's all about hooking the user, right? And that's what you are actually, personally. But as I understand it, you are into Spanish, not just to, broaden your horizons, but I think it's also because Duolingo has been really successful at like getting you hooked, making this a habit forming habit for you, being that successful in influencing your behavior. So I'd love you to use that as like a jumping off point and tell me, I guess one, they must be getting retention marketing right, but how are they getting it right? And how does that fit in with your theme of, hey, how to get users hooked, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's my favorite topic. After I read this book by Nir Eyal, the Hooked book. For anybody, I
Hmm.
think any product manager or marketer out there should like read that book, right? The whole psychological aspect of getting people hooked to a product. So yeah, Duolingo. I mean, I love Spanish. I appreciate the culture, especially when pandemic hit. I'm like, I got to do this. I've always wanted to learn Spanish. That was 100 days ago. So yesterday I did my 100-day streak. So I didn't miss a
Okay.
day, right? And I'm like,
Wow.
Congratulations.
yeah, thanks. I mean, I could speak a word or two, but after 100 days,
I'm pretty
uh,
sure we need a demo. I mean, like,
Yeah.
we're not taking
yeah,
your word for it.
yeah, yeah.
It's
No,
quiz time. It's quiz
yeah,
time. I'm just
it's
kidding.
just,
But
yeah. No, I mean, honestly, I think, and the first thing I did was, I mean, I knew Duolingo, right? So the word of mouth stuff, everybody was like, when it comes to language learning, the first thing that comes to your mind is Duolingo. There's a lot of users on it, but it's not without reason, right? So um when you like practice Duolingo, it feels like you're going back to school. Like, honestly, like you gotta commit to something. It starts with commitment, right? So a lot of products like that, they require daily habits involvement. They are all based on hook model. So there is a intrinsic and extrinsic, obviously, like internal and external motivation factors behind it, right? I want to learn Spanish. I need an app, right? But why this? So one thing is, you're part of, no, you're not just alone. Like, a lot of these factors are, you're not alone. There are so many other peoples that are learning like you. There's so many others that are paying like you. You can see leaks, right? You can see some people are going like faster than the other ones, right? There's gamification, there's rewards, right? Like, you feel like I haven't done something, they're reminders. I get 4 notifications a day from Duolingo. Like, it makes me nervous at like 10 o'clock at night. You haven't done your homework yet, like, like a
whoa.
kid.
What was that number? How many notifications?
I'm getting 4 a day almost, I think. I'm not kidding. Like, I get it like around 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Like, oh, this is like a few hours at 10 o'clock. Are you sure? Or like, there's one that is, you're missing your daily streak, right? Or like, oh my God, like, I feel like I'm on like in a marathon with this. But it is true. They're pretty like competitive with these things, and I think a lot of like I mean, there's the right ratio of not spamming people. For this, it's a commitment. They've
Mhm.
already realized that I'm a power users. Obviously, these push notifications are sent based on segmenting users. There are some people that are active users. They've already paid a subscription. You want to keep them like basically on the product, but segmenting users based on, are they like early adopters, are they people that they're like just casual users of our app, or there are people that they're dormant, they're not like using this anymore, right? So basically you gotta like send those push notifications in a very systematic way based on like certain flows, A/B tested. um, and like it's not an easy thing to get people hooked to like a new thing. There's so many distractions
Mhm.
out there, right? But
Oh,
they,
it's not.
they find their ways to get under your skin.
That's something though, think about it, John. You have 4 times a day. Normally, old school, right, which was pre-pandemic, would have said, "No, don't annoy people. Watch your
Mhm.
frequency, watch your recency, watch all that stuff." And it's like this throws it completely out the window. Your model, as you said, love to say, John, is toast. New data, new habits, right? 4 a day is fine because what's he doing? He's confined at home, right? So he's going to
Yeah.
be a power user. He's going to be a super student. I think that tells us a lot about what we think are the best practices of retention marketing. I would have thought 4 would annoy you, but it
And
motivates you. It gets you going, Fouad.
and that tells us and that tells us a lot, Peggy, about personalization.
Mm,
Because guess what? Duolingo can send Fuad those 4 notifications a day because he's that power user, because
yeah,
he has that commitment, because he's just not casual and dipping in. And so he's not ticked off when he gets a notification. He wants that. Fuad told us that 100-day streak. That was a big
yeah.
deal. We still haven't heard
Yeah.
a word of Spanish from you, by the way. We need to have that. I'm not getting off this podcast without doing it, but you did that
Okay.
100-day streak and you did not want to stop that streak. And so that
Yeah.
notification was helpful. It helped you do something that you wanted to do.
And believe me or not, that behavior impacted one or two of my close friends, and I see them on it, and I'm like, "What are you doing?" And they're like, "Well, I don't want to lose my daily streak." So, and that positive reinforcement, like the social
Hmm.
factor, is huge. If I may share screen and share with you guys one or two elements of this, um, I think that like here, like I think I've got this screen ready. Like you can see here, I am on Sapphire League, right? So you can
Hmm.
see this, right?
Yep.
So
Yeah.
and there's a demotion zone. If you're like, if I this was like, I think I got this screenshot 1 or 2 days ago, and I would get demoted. So think about like, do I want to get demoted for
That's
something that
hardcore.
you know what I
Wow,
mean?
that is.
Ouch.
That's
Right.
name and blame here, man. That's really something.
So you're part of a league, right? So and then you're putting users to groups of 45 at a time or something, right?
Wow.
So this is randomized. Obviously, I don't know any of these people there, but like I don't want to get demoted to. I've accomplished something, right? Like
And you
think
don't want
about
to let down your buddies in the league.
in
Yeah.
the league, or like I mean the next is like I mean, you can see friends. I have friends that they are like experience more or less, or there's rewards there. I was on like, I think here like the streak was 99, as you see up there gray. I was about to like to go 100. There is like achievements. You're like at a wildfire, or so they have named them like sage or
Wow.
scholar or whatever, and you need certain achievements. Then you get gems and tokens, which I mean, at the end of the day, you're about to learn Spanish, right? You think
Yeah.
about it, it's not like rocket science here, but I mean that like amazing kind of experience here. I think it's very important here to kind of like, it's not only about the core objective of every app, whether there's a fitness, whether there's meditation, whether there's game. This is applicable in every single genre.
It's super interesting. I mean, my son is learning Chinese right now
Yeah.
with Duolingo, and he's pretty hardcore about it. He's third year engineering student, and he's going to take a class, and so he's doing it. He's doing the same journey as you're doing, but you can't have that in every app. And frankly, we probably can't have like 10 apps on our phones that are giving us 4 notifications a day. There's probably maybe one, maybe two,
Right.
maybe three, or something like that.
Right.
But let's talk about other verticals. You work with many verticals: dating, gaming, other things like that. The habits to trigger, the approaches, maybe a little different. What are some other approaches that you use?
I honestly think in every single there is a way to adopt it. Like, I mean, okay, some business apps are like harder. Let's say a fintech app, an invoicing app, right? Like you don't need to check your invoices every day, right? That's distraction. You need to check it once, twice a week to see the health check, or like if you're getting paid, or there are certain gamification elements of like could be used for that. Like obviously reminders are important. You don't want to send somebody like a reminder every day that you like invoice or past due. It's just gonna frustrate them like that way, right? I get it, right? And not every project has that potential, right? But there are a lot of opportunities to like adopt these best practices as much as possible. I think achievements, every single product has a reason, right? Like I'm gonna work with dating, right? You want to find a match, right? So you need to send push notifications to people, but how do we send it, how frequent to people so that they come back? Time spent on mobile is limited. I have half an hour before I sleep to spend either on a meditation app or on Duolingo, on a game, or if you're single, like dating or business networking app. So time is limited, right? So obviously, like people are fighting to get that attention, right, for people, and the only ones that are winning are the ones that in long term somehow got under your head with either notifications, some matching algorithms for dating, especially like in a different matching with work dating, like they're like, you need to meet this person, right? Or some emojis, even you get like middle of like, what is this, like with this reach notification, get somebody's image on it, they get your attention somehow, right?
Mhm.
It's pretty interesting when you talked about a fintech app and invoicing and not
Yeah.
wanting to send somebody the invoice reminder every day. I was gonna say it depends on the client. You may
Right.
John,
want to.
John, we won't
But
go
I'll leave
there.
that alone. I will not talk about that, Peggy, and I will
No,
turn
you
the floor
won't,
over to
John.
you.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But you did talk about push, power of push here. But there are other channels, and I won't go down the road of iOS 14, but people are talking about how much more important it's going to be rather to use some different channels and sort of mix it up, get what you can to get your identifiers. But you talk about push. What other channel mixes do you see? What do you see? What are you telling your clients? What works? Is there like the mix that will hook me?
Yeah, it is the mix. Obviously, push is in front of us on our phone, right? When we're working or
Mhm.
whatever. Like, it's just the easiest way out there. I mean, a lot of people might opt out of push, right? And there are some best practices out there, even for push itself, when they a later push, like to just don't ask people right away. Give them instead of yes or no option, give them tell me later, right? Like
Mhm.
there's an option, tell me later about it, if they're not ready to say no, because once it's no, you cannot never send them a push again, right? So tell me later. So later on, ask for the permission when they're more kind of like hooked on the product. Obviously, emails are still not dead. Some people believe that emails are dead. I think there's like a way to send emails, like how often, how frequent, again with traditional email marketing, right? The product by itself, obviously product reminders, like on meditation apps that I'm using, by default when you download, it says, do you want us to send you reminders? So 8 a.m., 8 p.m. or something like that. So sometimes that could come from product by itself. And obviously it's a form of a push, but it's not like a push notification we're sending for segmentation and basically based on
Mhm.
events in the app, right? It's just like generic, right? Other than that, I mean, it's
What
literally.
about nudges? What about like, like the cool approaches? Because, you're talking about, for example, what got you to Duolingo.
Yeah.
Are there any memorable emojis, any memorable campaigns, maybe something we can learn about here? Because it seems to me it's a mix of getting the right channel, but sort of like getting the right vibe as well, you know?
Getting the right vibe, obviously, like I mean, again, we have examples from, like, for dating, my favorite app is coffee meets bagel. Like, I get various, I mean, we use a lot of dating apps for clients and personal reasons too, but like different kind of, you need to meet Maggie today because of whatever reason, we have an algorithm, or there is an image of somebody waiting for you, or like, like with emojis, like trying to like like get under your skin. And we tested that, Peggy, with one of our clients that is in dating. Like we just when pandemic hit, and a lot of people were scared to actually, so the message was all about networking or not being alone and chat and communication. And we kind of realized that like we were like getting like double or triple open rate with some push notifications because of those emojis or messages. And so that becomes copywriting, like the art of copywriting, just like anything that you send out with emails, the push. Like it was like pina colada, like the open line was pina colada versus margarita, even like, what? Somebody gets that on their phone, what is this? But then, oh, this is
Yeah.
the dating app, right? Because
Yeah.
If you send her like the same thing about, hey, you meet somebody, hey, somebody's waiting, you're like, okay, stop, like I'm working. But like pina colada, right?
You'll stop for that. You'll
You
stop
stop
work
for
for
pina
that.
colada, right? Yeah.
I like the example. I think you gave it to us in the prep for this. Is you sent out a notification. It says, "Do not read this notification," and
You're
then
right.
the
That was
text
from
underneath was, "Ah, you rebel, you. We knew you were ready. Go find your crush right now." So that's kind of a cool way too. You can't do it
Yeah.
every time, obviously,
right.
but throwing in one that's funny and interesting once in a while is a good tactic.
Do not read this notification with an emoji that's like a red stop sign or like do not enter, right? Which is like this was, I think the dating app happened. That was like they sent that, right? As an
Mhm.
example of like you can catch people's attention somehow, right? And have fun with it. And that's what
Agreed.
we in the mobile world, right? So like in the industry allows, unless you're like, in government app. Don't want to send those people, right?
Exactly. Let's get a little more personal.
Sure.
You're not just somebody who markets games for others
Yeah.
or advises people on retention. You actually have your own games as well. I want to ask you why you've done that, what's the purpose, and everything like that, and some of the key learnings that you've discovered as a result of owning and operating and managing and running your own games.
Yeah, John, that's a very like good question. I mean, I was a nerd playing video games since I was 7 years old, like Atari and Sega. Like probably a lot of us grew up with those. And gaming is almost 40% of these industries. I mean, I have passion for games. I love it. And yes, we acquired some games. Like we acquired them. We didn't build them from scratch. That we felt like they have potential. They were having like like some of them were having 4-digit downloads a day. uh, we realize that they have opportunity for growth by like fixing like how we're talking about like retention or like opportunity for ASO or ranking in the app store. So but I underestimated the fact that it is much much harder to actually work on your own project compared to other people's, because now like you have your own personal obsession. Now you're taking the team's time to work on it and priorities, and so tell me about it. It has been an interesting journey, right? A lot of learning. Like we have this game, our Kart Rush. It's a kart game, like racing game, and just users need to come back more. And it's like in a racing game, there's a lot of distraction out there. Why would you go to another racing game and like play it all the time? So it has poor monetization. So we recently started to heavily working on it. Again, the same process, the taxonomy, the events, getting the developers to code all those so we can know like what's going on. The app monetization right now is poor. Like you just need to buy coins. But why do I need coins? Give them a purpose to buy coins. Give them a purpose to come back daily. Are daily rewards like significant for people to come back, right?
Mhm.
And at the end of the day, for games, like what's the purpose of playing games?
It's to have fun.
I was going to answer. I thought it was like a quiz. Have fun. Interestingly enough, Fouad, you haven't gone into what we talked about before, which is now he's totally hooked on Frozen, John. So
Oh
it
god,
works.
level
He was
300.
level 300
Oh,
on
are you
Frozen.
trying to kill all his dating prospects here, Peggy?
Well, I got a 4-year old. She got me hooked to this. So
See? There you go. Getting
uh,
hooked on games, absolutely. Something's working in all those campaigns, which is a great segue, okay, to my next question, which is really, we talk about how you need to hook people, but I'd like to understand how you hook people. So what can you share around the best rewards, the best incentives, maybe something that obviously got you hooked. We won't use Frozen necessarily, but something must have done it, right? And
yeah,
and then more importantly, just as a side question to that, not just how you reinforce these habits, but how you know when you're hitting the nail on the head. In other words, how you measure the results.
obviously. So I mean, like, there's again, I said like about internal and external factors for getting people hooked on things, right? I've got hooked to in my and at times like FIFA Mobile was. I mean, I like football, soccer, right? Soccer games. So that's my favorite sport. So I got hooked to FIFA Mobile when I had a newborn kid. She would wake up every 2 hours, every 3 hours, right? And imagine like you can't sleep after the kid just wakes you up. So what do? Like you play this game, right? And this like you can't sleep, you just play. It's a no-brainer. At 2 o'clock in the morning, nobody can like work or function really after like a kid wakes you up, right? So I started like that was a couple of years ago. But it's and the first thing was okay. Do I want? I need. time is important for some people, right? I think about like
Mhm.
especially games. Sometimes a lot of these people that they spend money in games. I think some research by EA was saying a lot of these people that play games were in their mid 30s. You think that a lot of
Mhm.
teenage young kids, but actually the ones that are power users, they spend a lot of money in those games, are the ones that they have some purchase power. They might be parents. Time is more important.
Mhm.
They don't have the time like those kids to sit there and do a lot of things, right? So they just purchase the $1, $2, $5, right? The first
Mhm.
$1 transaction is the most important one. Now
Yeah.
you committed to a purchase. So
Right.
FIFA Mobile, what they do is the onboarding is just half an hour to get to the game, like a lot of tutorial completion, a lot of things to get there. Obviously, a lot of these are soccer fans, right? But they make you daily visit to App Store, to the store, the game store. You need to do a purchase, and they give you a free purchase every day. So you visit the store, you get tempted, you see all those offers, and the last one is the free purchase, right? So
Mhm.
you get daily visit. It's a part of your completion today. At the end of the day, if you did all these things, you will get a good reward, which is like, I don't know, whatever it's like a gem or coin or whatever, that's like important to purchase a better play or upgrade your players, right? But they get you daily to that daily habit of visiting a store to possibly do a transaction, right? So I think that that's got me hooked. I did the first 99 cents. I'm like, what? I'm a new dad. I don't go out to drink like 4 or 5 years ago to party or like do anything else. And I might as well spend $5 for myself or $1 for myself. And that led to $5 to $10. I spent $1,500 in 2 years on FIFA Mobile eventually, right? And I'm like, you know
You're a
what?
whale.
I
You're
did.
I was gonna say, definitely, you've got one of the 2% whales here.
So even I mean like I looked at 1 year of entertainment that was like I had a lot of fun, and I mean babysitting, well,
Yeah.
like doing some of that, but like you really I had to eventually delete that, and I got serious with business, and like you either gotta play games or like do business, right? So you
Now
can't
you've got a
always
business with playing games, Fouad.
well, you can make money now you try to sell that to other people, all those learnings, right? So
Yeah.
that's what we're doing. So, and I mean, yeah, I mean, the Frozen same thing for my kid. There's, I mean, the game itself, Jam City and Disney, kudos to them. They've done a really good job with this. They've got the daily rewards. They've got like clean UI,
Mhm.
like the good story. Obviously, the brand. I mean, every kid. I mean, you tell me a 4-year-old kid out there that doesn't know Elsa or Frozen, right? So they get on their parents' skin, they get parents hooked, and eventually the transaction happens, right? So,
It's a whole new market for Disney. I
right,
had no idea. Parents who play Frozen. There's got to
right.
be a support group somewhere for that.
I'm sure there's you can find out.
$1,500 later on Frozen.
Right.
Some community on Reddit where they're trading
The
they're,
trading.
they're they're trading their stories. But
Right.
I do hear something here, which is really about, we've got clean UI.
Yeah.
We've got very clearly connecting to your interests. We've got a little bit of FOMO going on. So I mean, underneath all of that, we are hearing the triggers that get people hooked, that influence behavior.
Yeah.
What about that measurement of results? That's going to be a tricky one. That's always going to be, it depends, is the first answer. But I would like to understand a little bit more about how to understand when you're hitting, when you're missing, for the marketers, not for you playing Frozen.
Well, obviously, for the marketers, we
Hmm.
obviously it's about like at the end financial commercial goals of the app, which is like either in-app purchase or right in-app like advertisement revenue, right?
Mm.
But that doesn't come till retention day 1 is hit, that doesn't come till retention day 7 is hit, and retention day 30 depends on retention day 7, depends on retention day 1, which is about onboarding and everything that the app does right away after installing the app, right? So basically, like all these things are to measure, like in Firebase or any analytic tool that we're using out there. That's how to measure. Like, did we hit those goals with retention day 1, 730, and eventually the transaction, right? A lot of these apps out there are giving free subscription. A lot of them are giving freebies, free trials. So measuring everything, all those funnels, all those like basically events to be well documented. Starts with the taxonomy, as I said, and like basically connecting the dots there, right? So that's basically the measurement. There's no other way to do
Hmm.
it.
Hmm.
Well, Fouad, this has been a wonderful half an hour, a little bit plus, actually, listening to you, learning from you. It's a real pleasure to have had you on the show. It's a real pleasure. I mean, not only to have somebody who plays games, but market games and makes games. I mean, those are challenging things to do. And thank you for your time.
You're welcome, and thanks for inviting me. And looking forward to be participating in this in the future as well.
Thanks,
Wonderful.
and also you've got us hooked in a way, so we will indeed do exactly that. Full circle again from my end as well, Fud. Thanks for sharing. Thanks for telling us about some of those triggers, those hooks, sharing your personal experiences. Now we know which games and what gifts to give you for the next holidays.
Thanks, Peggy. Thanks, John. Yes.
Great to have
Well,
you.
well, it's been a real pleasure having a chat with Fouad and Peggy as well. Whatever platform you're on, hey, like, subscribe, share, comment, all the above. If you love this podcast, listening to it later on, please rate it, review it. That'd be a massive help. Until next time, this is your line, Peggy. Keep well, keep safe.
That's me because I'm going to be that empathetic one here, John. Keep well, stay safe. This is Peggy
Excellent.
and Salz signing off for Retention Masterclass with the one and only John. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Thank you.